All right, guys, we got some pretty awesome content in store for you today. The weather here in central Utah has just been beautiful lately. It's 65 degrees and sunny out today, and so I figured this is the perfect opportunity to get out of the shop and get on the road. I haven't done a whole lot with Uglytruck lately. I showed you guys the whole build process, everything from the 8.1 swap to the fabrication and installation of the turbo kit. We put it on the dyno, and I showed you exactly how much power it makes at the rear wheels. But the one thing I realized I haven't done a whole lot of is just drive it for you guys, film how it drives. So we're gonna take care of that today. First, we will get rid of those old junky tires that are on the back. So that means a couple of big smoky burnouts. We'll have some fun there. And after that, like I said, we'll just get some general driving impressions. My name's LT, and on this channel, we build custom and high performance trucks with the occasional off-road vehicle kind of sprinkled in between. So if any of that stuff appeals to you, like engine swaps, help me out and hit that subscribe button and like this video, because we're trying to reach 100,000 subscribers by the end of 2021. This is now 2021. Let's see, we're at like 43,500 right now. We've got about 9 more months to make it happen. So I know we can do it. Just click that little red button. That's all it takes. Just click the button. One last thing. I am 33 years old, and you may not have noticed, or you probably actually did, but I am balding, and I'm tired of staring at that big old bald spot on camera, so we took some drastic actions and we shaved it off. It's a new look. It'll take me a little bit of, kind of getting used to it, but that's all right. It's summertime and it's like extra ventilation or something like that. So, let's go do some burnouts. Now, one thing I've actually never done in my automotive career is a long burnout until the tire just completely pops and destroys itself. I've come close. I've got a couple of tires down to the cords, but for some reason, whether it's mechanical sympathy or whether I'm just like, I don't know what the point is, or whether I don't want to hurt the quarter panel of the truck, I've never done a burnout that long. I need to, I probably should someday, but I just one of those things I haven't done yet. These tires that were on the back, those were original 2014 Silverado wheels and tires. And I got like 4 good solid burnouts out of these. One of them just to get a couple of still photos, and the 3 more that you guys saw. And there's still the ever slightest amount of tread showing, but with these old tires, you can kind of see how they start to chunk apart here. I mean, these things are just old, and they're actually kind of dangerous, to be honest. They're from 2014. Those are original 9-year-old tires from a 2014 Silverado, and they have pretty much no traction. Like with this 8.1, it's definitely not the most powerful thing in the world, but these tires, it would spin just way too easy. And it's definitely because the tires are old, they're hard as a rock, and there's just no grip. So anyway, perfect opportunity to get these swapped out. When I was looking at sizes, there was a couple different options. And remember, I'm going to the Pro Touring Truck Shootout, so I wanted a tire that had a fairly soft tread compound, so it's a little bit grippier. But it's actually kind of limited in terms of what sizes of tire you can get for an 18-inch wheel, because I don't want to change the wheels, and I want to stay around a similar diameter to this. I think on paper this one measures out to be, it's like 31.5 inches maybe. I'll put the correct number on the screen here. The tire I had on the front is a 255/55/18. These are actually the old tires that used to be on the wife's X5, and I swapped these out because the other ones I had on the back that matched that were completely destroyed. So these are kind of heavy, they're way out of balance, and they're a little bit shorter. This is the diameter I was kind of trying to stay close to 65/65/18, but definitely a little bit shorter. So the tire that I went with is a Toyo Proxes ST3 265, so it's the same width, but instead of a 65 sidewall, it's only a 60. So it's ever so slightly shorter, and of course on an 18-inch wheel, so I can mount them up onto the 2014 wheels. Now, I'm not quite sure of the overall diameter and the tread wear, but I'll put those two pieces of information up on the screen also right now. The tire that I really wanted was a Kumho, and I think it's weird, it was the only tire I found in that size. It was a 275, I think 55/18 or 275/60. But for some reason, the Pro Touring Truck Shootout rules don't allow Kumho tires, so I couldn't go with that brand. So this is the next best thing. It was kind of hard to find an 18-inch tire that was around that 30 to 31-inch tall range. I think this one is just about 31. So anyway, we'll get these things loaded up in the back of the AT4. I'll take them over to the tire shop. I'll get them swapped out. And then while I'm waiting, I'll kind of give you guys a quick overview of the suspension mods that I've done to prepare the Uglytruck for the shootout. Couple of little tires I'd like to have dropped off. It's news. As far as the chassis and suspension on the Uglytruck goes, I'm really under no illusion that it's going to be a very competitive vehicle in a pro touring or an autocross type of situation. But that being said, there are quite a few things that I've upgraded and changed on the chassis that will make it handle and stop a little bit better than the stock vehicle. Now, it is a 2000 Silverado 1500. It's a heavy truck by nature. It is a two-wheel drive, and then I added that big giant cast iron big block up front. But here's kind of the rough idea of what we've changed. First of all, it's been lowered 2 inches in the front with these Belltech drop spindles and 4 inches in the back. The handling up front will be improved a little bit with this Belltech sway bar. It is a little bit thicker, a little bit stiffer for sure. It's got just a Bilstein shock, stock coil spring, and then the brakes, these are from, I believe, like a 2009 or 2010 Silverado. It's just a Powerstop kit, but it's an upgrade over these earlier like 99 to 04 trucks because the rotor is 1 inch larger and has a big massive 2-piston caliper. And this is a Powerstop kit with drilled and slotted rotors, and it has a pretty good pad in there. So that's the front, pretty simple. Out back, like I said, it's been lowered 4 inches. That's accomplished with a stock spring in the stock location on top of the axle, but it does have a longer drop shackle out back. Not sure if you can even see that. And a raised hanger up front. That's pretty basic lowering stuff. Brakes, it does have the same 2009 or 10 Silverado or Suburban brakes. I'm not sure. Once again, Powerstop kit. And then I do have a Hellwig rear anti-sway bar. That'll definitely help keep things planted out back. Overall, the chassis setup on Uglytruck is very basic. Everything bolts on straight out of the catalog. Zero custom fabrication or modification are required. Now, that being said, together I think they will make a fair improvement over especially a stock height truck. I mean, you've got lower suspension, stiffer sway bars, and then bigger brakes. So you kind of help the center of gravity, the handling, and the stopping power. So like I said, a little better than stock, although definitely not competitive with some of the other trucks that are going to be down there at the shootout. But it's all about having fun, and we'll probably just end up sliding the thing around and drifting and having a fun time anyway. I think the tires are ready. It's actually been a couple hours since I dropped them off, so we'll get the tires bolted back onto the truck, show you the new stance, because it will sit a little bit differently with those short tires on the front. It had a pretty aggressive rake to it. So I'll show you the new stance, and then we'll take it out for a quick drive so I can give you kind of the impressions of how it's to drive a big turbo, big block on low boost, you know, every day.
It's thinking.
Oh, that looks a lot better.
A little bit better. You know these are directional, right?
Yes.
So,
Yep.
It's just when you put them on, make sure the arrows are pointing forward. You filming a video?
Yeah, I do some YouTube stuff. I'm actually taking this truck down to Arizona next week. I have a autocross.
Oh, nice. They take care of you inside?
I haven't been inside yet, so I'll go do that right now.
Sounds good.
Thanks, man. It's kind of nice to see this thing with 4 tires on it that are actually the same size and the same brand all the way around. I'm really liking how it looks. The 265/60s do fill out the wheel well rather nicely up front with a 2-inch drop, and I do also like the tread design on these, so happy with my choice there. Out back, the thing is lowered 4 inches, but I wish it was kind of a little bit lower because you can see there's just a little bit more gap on top of the wheel well than there is on the front, but we've got a 4-inch exhaust going over the axle, and I don't have any C-notch in there, so it's kind of difficult to go any lower than where we're at right now. Also, I did get an alignment while I was going through this because I haven't actually got an alignment done ever since I've owned this truck. Since we lowered it, we rebuilt the entire front suspension. I just kind of roughed everything in, and the camber was close, the caster was sort of close, but the toe end was like way out of whack, and my tires weren't balanced. So altogether, those should lead to a really big improvement on how this truck drives. So let's go for a drive. Hold on, this car's coming. Got some wheel hop still. We'll have to figure something out about that. Oh, come to a stop. So we'll do a quick traction test here. Let's see, 3rd gear, 1, 2, 3. So this is completely flat-footed dead stop. Well, it hooks up a little better than it did before, so those new tires are definitely helping. But if you're just, stupid with it, just plant your foot all the way, it still spins. But 342s will help that. So the 8.1 in here is 100% bone stock. I mean, I'm talking stock valve springs, stock everything. I haven't modified the intake manifold. The only difference is the injectors. Obviously they're bigger. We got some FIC 1000cc injectors in here, but other than that, stock cam, stock everything. So this 8.1 normally makes a tremendous amount of mid-range torque, and then when you combine that with a big S480 that actually will spool fairly quickly, you have just a really responsive mid-range. I mean, if I drop this thing into third gear, we're at 2200 RPMs or so, just gently roll into it. I mean, it's like right there, it's starting to spool up. Yeah, it's definitely not like an EcoBoost truck where those things are like light switches, they're instantly on, but for a big, massive cast wheel turbo, it spools like really well. So much smoother now. It is incredible. You know, I just want to drive this thing, like put some miles on it. Just something about how smooth it is and how mellow it is, and it's just right there. And I think with only 5 pounds of boost, this thing probably would pretty much last forever. Even with the stock 4L80 transmission that's in there, I don't think I'm going to hurt it. So I just want to use it all this summer. I don't want to tear it apart yet. I've got some parts that I'm ordering and collecting to build the motor. We're going to go a little bit bigger and a little bit badder. But for now, I just want to drive this thing and use it. It's just so fun. Now, I'll let you in on a little bit of a secret. On the dyno, I turned this thing up to 8 pounds of boost, which is really not that much at all. But I tried to be a little conservative just because of how fragile these 8.1s are said to be. You know, the 5.3s people have done a million times. You can turn those things up all day long, they'll handle just about anything you can throw at it. The 8.1s, granted, there haven't been that many people who have messed with them like we're doing here, but the few people that I have seen do forced induction, they have problems, or some of them have had problems at a pretty low boost level. So I turned it back down to 5 pounds, and on 5 pounds, I think it made like 400, 410 horse, which is nothing, and then maybe about 500 pounds of torque at the wheels. But still, even on 5 pounds of boost with a big block, the 430s, this thing is just a blast to drive. And I'm not sure if you can see the boost gauge that's down here, but 5 pounds is right there. It's kind of like, I don't know, 1 o'clock or so. So I'm just gonna nail it real quick, and you kind of watch and see how it responds and hear how that turbo comes on. So within probably a second or two, we've got full boost, which 5 pounds of full boost isn't that much, but it's right there. So what I'm going to do now, I'm just going to come to a stop, and I'm just going to kind of nail it from a dead stop and show you guys kind of how useless these 430s are. This thing makes a ton of torque, and it pretty much just spins. So this will just be basically a flat foot from a dead stop, and then we'll just kind of let it run a little bit and see how quick we get going. So here's a complete stop. Just going to roll into it flat foot. Okay, so about 50 miles an hour, it's still kind of spun on the shift. Third gear is at 70 miles an hour. I've got my shift points at about 5,000 RPM. Woo! Okay, so there is a pretty good rate of speed. We're going to slow down here. Yeah, that's fun. Only 5 pounds of boost. Probably used a gallon of fuel doing that just now, but that's all right. So yeah, definitely the 430s, if it were a lighter truck, had a higher revving engine, I might keep them. But with how much torque this thing makes in the mid-range, I mean, it makes its peak torque, I think, at like 3,500 or 4,000 RPM. And when we're on it like that, it's basically between 4,000 and 5,000 RPM. We're at makes less power and less torque. So 342s will definitely help it stay kind of in the meat of its power band, and I think it'll actually accelerate a little quicker with the 342s rather than the 430s. If anything, it'll help load the turbo a little bit and help it spool. And I think what I'm gonna do is get one of those like little draggy GPS timer box things, and I'll do kind of a couple comparisons, because I don't have like a good drag strip right near my house. But I will get one of those boxes, I think, and just do a couple, you know, A and B tests to see what is gonna be a better gear or what's gonna provide better acceleration. Because with a 5.3, these 430s, you know, that was great. But with this 8.1, it's just, I really think it's too much gear. Also, I'm just kind of noticing this is like the first time I've really taken it on any kind of a curvy road since I've basically had this truck. So we've got low suspension, sway bars, all those good things, new tires alignment. It handles actually really fun. I mean, it's not a Corvette, it's not like a sports car by any means, but for a big heavy truck with a big cast iron lump in the front, this thing is doing really good. It's kind of sticks to the ground, it hugs the ground a little bit, and I'm gonna have a blast down there at the Pro Touring Truck Shootout. Whew, it's right there. I think the one thing I am going to do is tweak the trans tune just a little bit, because it downshifts a little bit too easily, where it starts to pull really good in the mid-range, but then I get my foot into it and then the computer tells us to downshift. So all I got to do is kind of play with that 3-2 downshift on the tune there, and I think it'll help it pull a little bit better, because I hate this thing at a higher RPM. It seems to pull so much better right in the mid-range. But other than that, I mean, this thing, wicked responsive. It is right there when you want it to be. So I think that pretty much wraps up any of the quote-unquote race prep that we're doing on the Uglytruck here. Just to kind of sum up, we've got fresh tires, fresh alignment. Suspension is all new front to back. I rebuilt it all last summer, so every single bushing and ball joint is brand new. Plus we've got the sway bars, a little bit lower stance, and some bigger brakes. So as far as racing this thing, it's about as good as it's going to get, unless I completely redesigned everything. So late next week, we're headed down to Chandler, Arizona for the Pro Touring Truck Shootout. If you're in the area, or if you're checking out the race, you know, say hello, stop by, check out the truck. I'd like to see you down there. Also, like and subscribe if you haven't already. It really helps out the channel to continue to grow. We got some more Jeep content coming up probably in the next video or two. Next week's schedule might be a little bit spotty, but I'm going to still try to have 2 uploads. And because the event is 2 days, I think I'll have 1 upload for the first day and 1 for the second. So you're not going to want to miss it. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I said that already. Thank you guys for watching. Catch you next week.